Hello, Todd Clemens, Okeechobee Livestock Market, and here's your weekly market report. So today is a kind of a neat day because it's the spring equinox. Today is the 20th. Usually it falls on the 21st. Maybe because it's leap year, it's a day early. I don't know about that, but it's really kind of neat because 2 times during the year, the days and nights are equal. And when I come from my house to the market to come to work, and the office opens at 8 o'clock, and I'm coming east on 70 into town there at the red light, the sun is directly behind that red light and you cannot see it. It's just impossible. I mean, you go blind trying to pull your visor down and see what the car in front of you is going to do, and it's just a bad time. But right there, and that happens 2 times a year when the days and nights are equal, and that's just kind of cool to me because it shows order. I mean, there is something that specifically happens, and it happens the same way all the time. That's order. And I am a God-believing man, and I believe that the world was created by God, and that brings order to my life and makes sense to me. It just makes sense because there is a lot of chaos and a lot of crazy things going on in the world today that we have no control over, and we worry and fret about, but you can rest assured that God has everything in control. I love that. Anyway, it's a special day. Spring equinox gives us order among a lot of chaos. Let's see, there's some things going on here you probably should know about. There's been some reports, newsletters out. If you read the DTN, the Progressive Farmer, any of the ag reporting news articles, you'll see that the product of the USA label ruling has come out from USDA. Vilsack, who is the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, announced that we have now voluntary labeling. Product of the USA will no longer mean that could include meat from other countries, imported meat, which that's the case it's been in. That's been a bad thing. There was a loophole there, and they have the USDA, Tom Vilsack, has announced that there will no longer be any meat at the grocery stores in a pack that says product of the USA on it that is not born, raised, and harvested in the United States of America. And every cattle group, organization, even NCBA, there was some parts about that they weren't really excited about. NCBA, United States Cattlemen's Association, even RCAF, and the other groups that are big into cow-calf producers, industry organizations that help us. OCM also is included in that. Everybody was happy. The only thing about this, it is voluntary, but from now on, when you go to the meat market and you go buy a ribeye steak or whatever cut of steak you like, ribeyes, New York strips, whatever, and you pick up that package of meat and it says USA, or it has the American flag on it, or product of the USA, that's going to mean that it is from here and there's no imported meat in that. They're not bringing it in from somewhere else, repackaging it, and then putting product to the USA on it. That will no longer be happening. It's voluntary, it's not mandatory, but still, if you think about it, I mean, they don't have to label it. So there's still a case for the mandatory country of origin labeling, which we would prefer, I would prefer, that it was mandatory that they label it, because they have to label the tomatoes, the avocados, the apples, everything else is labeled. So let's just label the meat. But at least there's not a loophole there anymore. So that's great. That's great news. Glad to see that. But voluntary, and then it really doesn't come into effect until, get this, the beginning of 2026. But Secretary Vilsack did say, everybody go ahead and start planning and doing and gearing up so to get these labeling things right, because it's going to be effective 2026. But there you may see some difference in the labeling between now and then because they're trying to get up to speed, and we'll see how this thing goes. It can't hurt, trust me. Another thing that's happened this week in the state of Florida, not outside of the state, but in the state of Florida. But Florida has a animal disease traceability rule, which parallels, just like a sister rule, to the federal animal disease traceability rule, which requires mature animals to have a permanent ID tag on them when they leave from one state to another. That's a federal rule, and that is in effect. There's also a state rule that mirrors that for movement of cattle from one premise ID to another premise ID, or a cow that's bought at the livestock market that's going back to a ranch that has a premise ID, a location. If that cow leaves the market, it has to have a permanent tag in its ear just to go back home to another ranch. That's the difference. That's a state rule. So they're very, it's like duplicated work, and there's a lot of record keeping that goes on behind this tagging deal. The state veterinarian's office is in charge of keeping the data. I've heard reports where these state inspectors write down all the ear tag numbers, and they know who owns the cattle, and they keep all these records. And then the state inspectors are required to mail those records to an address that was given to them. And they mailed these records from the livestock markets to this address given to them for 2 years, and the address was an unknown address. There was nobody even there. A phantom address. All the work that had been done by state employees, record keeping, mailed off, they did their job, sat there in a phantom box. So, and the markets handle, we've said, like half of the cattle that are traded in the state of Florida. The other half of the cattle that are traded and sold and exchanged and moved are not even regulated because there's no inspectors, there's no people there to write the paperwork down for the ear tags and all that. So we're not even recording, we're recording less than half of the movement of cattle in the state of Florida as it is. So it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, it's a waste of resources. And so the markets have made a resolution, and it will be approved by the markets in the state of Florida to repeal the state rule, which totally makes sense. It's not compromising anything to do with animal health. It's not compromising the ability to trace or track any disease that comes into our state. We've been doing that for a long, long time, and this will only free up human resources and financial resources, and not having to have these huge databases full of numbers and duplicated things. So I'm happy about that, and I think it's a good move, and this resolution will go to the appropriate people. It'll go to the Florida Cattlemen's Association, the Farm Bureau. It'll go to Dr. Short, the state veterinarian's office in Tallahassee. It'll also go to the Agriculture Commissioner Wilton Simpson's office, and so it'll go to the proper places, and then it will be decided probably through the Animal Health Division in Tallahassee that we can repeal that rule. In other words, just strike the rule out, and we won't have to be worried about all that tagging stuff anymore, which we're happy about that too. So those are things that you can look out for. More information will be available for you to find out about on Florida Association of Livestock Markets website. Florida Association of Livestock Markets website is FALM. I don't know the website numbers or URL code or anything for it, but you can just search Florida Association of Livestock Markets. It'll come up on your Google search. You can go right straight to that page. You can find out you can read the resolution. You can read some of these other issues that are coming up that would concern anybody that that sells cattle in our state. Any cattle producers that use the livestock markets, which that's all of you for the most part, uses. So that's good. Back to the market, man. These prices are getting a little bit scary. When we saw some of our cows, the high-end, front-end cows this week here at the market were quoted $3 to $5 higher. The range was from 121 to 129 price on the higher average cows, and there was 40 or 50 of those cows that brought between 121 and 129. The slaughter bulls, we had a good amount of them too, and the high-end range for the bulls was from 142 to 153. That's a lot. That's crazy. So they're needing that hamburger meat, that's for sure, and there is definitely a shortage out there. Packers are out there having to give more money every week. These feedlots are holding on to their supplies, or just holding on because they know that the packers are going to need them, and they're not giving in to these lowball offers that the packers are offering. They're sticking to their guns, and every week for the last 3 weeks or so, fat cattle prices have gone up a dollar or two, seems like every week. We're right there about 187 or 188, I think, and it won't be long. I'll bet you we'll get to 190. There's an outside chance still that these fat cattle will be selling for $2. And if you look at the calf market, you see these 4-weight calves that are coming in here, they're bringing $1,600 for a 4-weight calf. And that's just a little calf that's got his whole life ahead of him, and it's going to cost some money to get him from 400 pounds to 1,400 pounds. That's 1,000 more pounds of weight at $1. Let's just say $1 a pound, so that's another 1,000 on top of 1,600. So you got 2,600 minimum in that calf by the time he's ready to be processed. So do the math. I should have done that before we're talking, but it's $2,600 divided into 1,400 pounds. It's a pretty good ticket. I did see something interesting, and we've talked about the difference between the steer price and the heifer price being such a wide range, 40, 50, 60 cents difference between steers and heifers. And on this week's market report, I'm going to look at the weight range of these number one steers from 3 to 350. The average weight was 321. And the average price for that group of number one steers was $4.40 a pound. That equals $1,412. You look at the heifer mates, the exact heifer mates weighing the very same thing, same quality, weighing 320. There were a good slug of them, 43 head of them in that group from 3 to 350, average weight 320. That brought $3.55 a pound. That's $1,136. And those calves, the steers and the heifers, weighing the very same thing, and the heifers are $276 cheaper than the steers. It's either saying that the steers are in more demand, people are willing to give more money for a steer because they think maybe he's going to grow quicker, or he'll turn into meat quicker than the heifers will. It takes him less days to finish out than a heifer does. But at any rate, it's $276 difference. And then I look down, just add 100 pounds to the heifer, go from 320 pounds to 419 pounds. The class of heifers from 4 to 450, there's a good wad of them under that weight range that averaged 419. That brought $336 a pound. That's $1,412. That's the same thing that the 320 pound steer bought. 100 pounds difference. It took a heifer to weigh 100 pounds more than the steer to bring the same amount of money. Maybe that's a marketing tip for you guys this year. Maybe when you're working your calves and you're riding your calves out for sale, you may want to ride the steers out and put them in one pasture put the heifers in another pasture, or keep them all together, sell the steers, and then hold on to the heifers and put another 100 pounds on them, put a creep feeder out, help the cow carry the heifer a little bit heavier, and make up that $276. Anyway, that's just a thought. Don't know if it's practical or not, but we're giving up some money on the heifers, and I'm not like, being greedy or anything, but I'm just saying if you're trying to maximize your potential ability to make a profit, then these heifers are way behind the steers. So think about that a little bit. It was very interesting. But cows and bulls and calves were $3 to $5 higher. Runs have slowed down. We had about 750 yesterday and 900 and some odd there Monday. So it's not a bad run for this time of year. And I think that these prices they'll just stay where they are, and things are looking good on the price end. We had some high prices this week, and they were pretty good prices. The Brian Belcher family in Sebring, Florida, our condolences go out to that family. They had brought in a little steer calf that weighed 260 pounds that brought $4.75. That calf was bought by DNS. And on the slaughter cow side, Joe Lott from Venus sold a 1,355 pound cow that brought $1.39. That cow was bought by FPL. We appreciate you watching these reports. Subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up. We like giving you this information. If you have any comments or suggestions, let us know. We'll see you next week. Thank you.